Welcome to Power Talks with Santosa. Today we have with us the Ambassador of Sri Lanka to Nepal, His Excellency Mr. Thosapala Hewage. Rich culture and history, breathtaking landscapes, a world-class cricket team, and a global leader in tea industry, Sri Lanka has created an impressive identity of its own. On March 2nd, the President of Sri Lanka, His Excellency Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa, visited Nepal and met our President, the Prime Minister, several ministers and prominent political leaders. Your Excellency, what were the major outcomes of the President's visit to Nepal?
As you very correctly said, my President, His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa, visited Nepal from 2nd to 4th. Actually, the purpose of his visit basically based on the invitation from the President of Government of Nepal. And during his visit, he had bilateral discussions on various topics with the Honorable Prime Minister of Nepal, Honorable Foreign Minister of Nepal, and also with the other ministers and opposition leader, former Prime Minister, Mr. Koirala. So that was one of the objectives of his visit. Then he also wanted to visit as chair of SAARC to the SAARC Secretariat, and also Lumbini, but unfortunately he could not visit Lumbini due to attack on the cricket team in Lahore. So he had to cut short and went back to Colombo.
So did he come to any conclusions in terms of strengthening further relations with Nepal and Sri Lanka?
Of course, definitely. During his visit, there were two major agreements that have been signed. One is the air service agreement to have a direct airline from Colombo to Kathmandu. Very likely that it will be initially via Delhi, but later on it can be direct to Kathmandu. The other one is a joint commission which had been there for some time. We've been discussing on various issues like trade, tourism, agriculture, religious and cultural. So we, Sri Lanka and the government of Nepal, have signed various memorandum of understandings on each of those areas which I mentioned. Of course, in addition to that, the education and health. What we did this time was to incorporate all that into one joint commission.
As you said, on March 3rd, there was rather a very unfortunate incident in Pakistan. Unfortunate for Sri Lanka and Pakistan government, both. The cricket team of Sri Lanka was attacked by some terrorist group in Lahore. Could this be an aftermath of the Mumbai attacks in November?
Well, of course, it's very difficult to say at this stage, because Sri Lanka government has requested Pakistan government to investigate and give us a report. So basically, based on that report only, government will come to a conclusion. On the day that happened, Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka was here. So President requested Foreign Minister to go to Lahore and have discussions with his counterparts and the relevant officials with regard to this incident.
The terrorists have clearly sent a message to the world that they could attack even national players. Why Sri Lankan team?
Well, it could have happened to any team, if, as you know, the terrorists are terrorists. Their intention is to disrupt the existing, perhaps the relationships, existing situation in both countries, as well as India. So that could be the motive, but it's very difficult to come to a conclusion why the Sri Lankan team was attacked. This was the first time ever happened to any players, you see, whether it is cricket or football or volleyball. There had been various incidents, but not to this extent. It would have been a disaster if something happens to the team.
Recently, your government appointed Colonel Karuna a minister of the government. Now, if we look at his background, he was former deputy leader of the Tamil Tigers. Did not his appointment come rather unexpected?
The thing is, Karuna was not in agreement with his leader. He did not agree with the leader. So therefore, he went away from the main group. And then while he was there, then he observed the governments that came into power and found that the present government under the leadership of His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa is very firm on handling the terrorist issue and also giving facilities to the community that have been depressed by the LTTE in northern eastern provinces. Once it is cleared, now terrorists are confined to a small area. Once that is cleared, government will definitely have elections and let the people of the northern province to select their own leader.
So has this given a positive response to the rebel groups, that if they opt for peaceful ways?
Actually, government has offered, very, very clearly, unconditionally, that if you surrender your arms, come for discussions, we will do whatever possible.
And when we're talking about LTTE, the conflict and war between the government and the LTTE has claimed over 60,000 lives and displaced even much more.
Exactly.
Much more people. We hear about the news of their attacks, of them attacking the government every other day in the newspaper. How do you see the future of your country in terms of achieving peace and harmony? And if it does, how will this happen?
Yeah, now if you look back, this terrorist problem had been there for last nearly 3 decades.
3 decades.
What the LTT is asking is a separate state within a tiny island, which nobody in the world will agree. So I believe that now the government under the leadership of His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa, he has given a very clear signal to the terrorist groups that if you don't surrender, you will be wiped out. So it will happen. So they are confined to a very small area, keeping the nearly 40 to 50,000 civilians as human shield. I mean, if they try to get out, they'll shoot them. They have killed several thousand of civilians like that. So that is the problem that the government is facing, how to get these civilians out of their hands. So that is why it is taking fairly long time. Otherwise it would have been few days.
So we'll talk more about your great nation after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome to Power Talks with Santosa. We are in conversation with the Ambassador of Sri Lanka to Nepal, His Excellency Thosapala Hewage. Your Excellency, in 2004 December, there was a tragic incident in Sri Lanka, the tsunami. And as you know, the whole world is facing a lot of environmental threats, rise in the sea level, the global warming. As an expert of environment yourself and dealing with the recovery of tsunami in Sri Lanka, what do you suggest the world to learn from Sri Lanka in dealing with this inevitable disaster?
Yes, as you very correctly pointed out, that tsunami affected Sri Lanka on the 25th December 2004. So that devastated the coastal belt of the country, and nearly 40,000 people were killed, and nearly 2 million, close upon 2 million people are displaced. During that time, I was the Secretary of the Ministry of Urban Development and Water Supply, and I had to play a major role with regard to identification of lands for construction of houses for these people. So therefore, we managed to provide them with permanent housing within a matter of 2 to 3 years. For all the families are settled in villages under permanent roof. So that is how we really recovered the tsunami. But now, when you look at from the environmental point of view, and the coral reefs, they damage the coral reefs, and they damage the coastal vegetation. When I was Secretary of the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources, so there was a education program for requesting these people not to damage coral reef, and it will be definitely harmful to them, because it's a quick money, I mean, you remove coral reefs and then sell it to the tourists, you see. It's a very quick money. But the damage that was done is irrecoverable. What I can say is that I think you have to work as a team in such an occasion. Leave out all your differences, political or otherwise, and you have to work as a team. The political leadership is definitely very, very important, but more than that, the community to work as a team to recover and look after the displaced people is very, very important.
When you were in school and in college, you were a very bright student. At the age of 17, you entered college, and you joined the civil service in early 20s. What inspired you to join the civil service, despite the fact that you were such a bright student? And normally in South Asia, that's not the trend.
Well, of course, I have studied from the college through various scholarships that have been provided by the government. I come from a village. So what I thought, if I can do some service to the village people, I think that is a job I should really select. I came to Colombo after serving 10-12 years outside Colombo.
You started with the land department?
Exactly. District land officer in a district called Monaragala. That is a very, very remote village. Even the services, including bus transport service, communication services, were very limited. I'm referring to 1970s, 1973. Then also I served in Rajangana, that is Anuradhapura district. We would have probably heard about the ancient ruins and so on. But I was in again another remote settlement scheme. Those were the places which I worked. I really enjoyed working in those places. And then only I had to come to Colombo to get the request of my head of department. And that is how we started our career.
You have served the civil service for almost 4 decades. Based on your expertise, when I look at the Sri Lanka, it has every resources and potential to become an economic leader in South Asia. Why has not Sri Lanka become an economic leader in South Asia?
Yes, actually, if you look at the Sri Lankan economic situation, I would say that it is promising. Rate of economic growth is around 6.5%, and actually it went up to 7%, and now the country wants to keep it up at the 7.5% for this year. So it is not bad compared to the terrorist issue that we are facing. But if you look at other areas like the tourism and industrial development and so on, I would say that it is promising. Then the other one is the industrial zones that we have under the Board of Investment. Last year, the foreign direct investment to the country was nearly $850 million. So this year target is $1 billion. Therefore, I would say that it is not that bad, but I agree that it could have been much more, and Sri Lanka would have been actually hub of economic activities if we really didn't have this terrorist problem in the country.
Your Excellency, will talk more about Sri Lanka and Nepal relations after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome to Power Talks with Santosa. We are in conversation with the Ambassador of Sri Lanka to Nepal, His Excellency Thosapala Hewage. Your Excellency, You just arrived in Nepal and took your office in January. You begin with arranging the visit of your president to Nepal right away. What are your expectations, or what are your plans while you are here in Nepal during your tenure to achieve?
Yeah, within my short period, actually, it's just 1 month and few days. As you know, no sooner I came, within 5 days' time, I had to give my credentials. Soon after that, our independence came in, the 4th of February, so I was busy with that. And several ministers came on various programs, then I was very busy with them. His Excellency, the President of Sri Lanka, from 2nd to 4th. So that you see that, it's a very, very tight schedule for me to start with. But I am happy that, everything went on well, except President had to cut short his visit by 1 day. I believe that, Sri Lanka and Nepal relationships can be further developed because we being in touch with so many centuries, because our relationship goes back to Ravana period, and since then we've been in close touch with Nepal, especially based on Buddhism and also various other religious activities. So therefore, that as a base, I think we can do a lot of work with Nepal. That is one aspect. And also I must mention about the Lumbini, being a Lord Buddha's birthplace. All Sri Lankans, nearly 78%, are Buddhists. They like to come to Nepal at least once in their lifetime.
Even last year, Your Excellency, out of 60,000 visitors to Lumbini, 45,000 were Sri Lankan. So
that's exactly, yes. So that is, that is without any direct link, with Nepal. But with this air service, direct flight, there will be many more visitors, not only to see Lumbini, but also see other important religious places in Kathmandu and other places. That as a base, I think we have to work with the Nepali government regarding development of tourism. Because nowadays people talk about ecotourism, because you have mountains, then we have beaches. From mountains to beaches, you can have a joint tourism development plan. That is one area. Then other is religious tourism. The Nepali people and the visitors who are coming to Nepal can see Buddha's birthplace and, various related areas. At the same time, they can visit Sri Lanka and see the ancient Buddhism developed at that time. So, these are things, that we can really develop.
When you were talking about, during your tenure, the strengthening of Sri Lanka and Nepal ties, as we know, Sri Lanka has drafted the constitution 3 times and made several amendments. So there must be certain expertise in Sri Lanka in writing constitution. We are in history's crucial time of writing the first constitution of the Republic Nepal. How can we use your expertise in drafting our constitution or training our constitution writers?
Actually, my president, when he was here, this question was brought to the notice of him, and then he agreed that, if a request is made, expertise can be provided from Sri Lanka. And as you said, we have written constitution 3 times, and amendments, went up to 17. So the lot of expertise in Sri Lanka in this sphere. So if a request is made, definitely my government will take that very positively and try to help.
When we talk about Sri Lanka and Nepal ties and talk about commerce, Sri Lanka is one of the leading tea exporter to the entire world. Its brand Dilma is loved worldwide. Even I use it once in a while. And Nepal, the eastern part of Nepal, Ilam and its neighboring area, is very rich in producing organic tea. We are good producers in terms of quality, and Sri Lanka is a great exporter. So can there be any strong ties in Sri Lanka importing trees from Nepal and exporting it globally?
Definitely, I think the Dilma, they are doing a very good service, exporting tea to various countries in various brands and various tastes and so on. So we have a branch here in Dilma. I think they are doing some promotional activities, so we can get their expertise. At the same time, as you know, Sri Lanka produce about 19% of the export product of tea, so fairly sizable amount. But of course now compete with various other countries like African countries and India, Darjeeling and so on. But still, if you take the taste wise and the quality wise, I think people like the Sri Lankan tea, because tea is famous. Ceylon tea is famous worldwide. That has a brand name. I'm sure that whatever the expertise that you really require in order to promote your tea, I'm sure that Sri Lanka will be in a position to assist. Dilma itself, perhaps will take some sort of promotional work.
We all know that the cricket team of Sri Lanka is world class, whereas in Nepal the sports of cricket is developing since a decade only. Yet under the supervision of a Sri Lankan coach, the under-19 team of Nepal, with the captainship of Sakti Goshen, won the ACC tournament. What do you think that we should work on to reach to the global feat that Sri Lankan team has reached?
Well, I think Sri Lanka cricket team is one of the best cricket teams in the world that we have. I think they have won World Cup and became runners-up, at several World Cup games. I'm sure, if the sports ministry of Nepal make a request to the government of Sri Lanka to assist in, developing the cricket, I'm sure that, government will consider positively.
Gautam Buddha was born in Nepal and Buddhism flourished in Sri Lanka. Sadly, both the countries are facing conflict Sri Lanka facing since last 3 decades, and we have faced in last 1 decade. Is it that somewhere in the lane we forgot the principles of Buddhism and we are suffering? How do you feel about it, and where can we get back to it again to revive the philosophy of peace and fraternity?
The Buddhism is non-violence and always promote peace, but unfortunately due to various changes in the global context, values have changed to a great extent, because especially the monetary values have given priority than spiritual values. So therefore I believe that based on Buddhism, if we can promote this peace process, I believe that we will have a good future.
Let's hope that the principles of peace and non-violence prevails and both our countries are able to achieve peace. With this hope that both our nations, Sri Lanka and Nepal, may achieve peace in the future, I wish you good luck and goodbye. Thank you for watching us. See you next week, the same time. Thank you for being on the show, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much for kind invitation.